Welcome to DEFCON 3. I'm KT McFarland. Growing economic instability in Greece has many in Europe worried about the region's future. A scenario being discussed is whether a destabilized Greece could go on and hurt America's position in Europe. Well, here with reactions, Nile Gardiner with the Heritage Foundation. Welcome. Nile, let me just get right into it. Is America's position in Europe potentially at risk because of the Greek crisis?
Well, I do believe that the Greek crisis directly impacts US interests. It's a very important issue for the United States, and there will be some long-term implications for America. So I do think that Washington should be closely watching the events unfolding now in Greece. And there are major, I think, long-term economic, political, and security concerns for the United States emanating from the Greek crisis. A lot depends, of course, upon the outcome of the latest negotiations being conducted this week with the European Union, also with the IMF as well. But without a doubt, I think that we see Greece veering away from the European Union. I think an exit from the European single currency is an inevitability now. I do think that Greece will be cutting its ties to the Eurozone over the course of the next few months. And that will have significant implications for the future of the European project, for the future of the EU, and also for the United States as well.
You know, one scenario I've seen, Greece is a member of NATO. Now, NATO is not the European Union, but there's a lot of overlap. And one scenario is that, well, European Union is not going to bail Greece out, so Greece is going to look for somebody. And the Russians, even Putin, has stepped up to say, well, we might consider bailing Greece out. But the Russians don't do anything for nothing. So if Russia stepped up to try to give economic assistance to Greece, what might they ask for in return?
I think this is one of the biggest dangers from the events unfolding in Greece at this time. Russia stepping in as an alternative to the European Union and extending the hand not only of friendship to Greece, but also extending the possibility of loans to Greece. This is a country that is on the verge of bankruptcy. After all, in return for any kind of financial support from Moscow, I think that Vladimir Putin will be looking for Greek support within the EU against economic sanctions currently being applied by the EU targeted at Moscow over the Ukraine invasion. And so the Russians will be looking to the Greeks to try and scupper those sanctions being imposed by the EU. In addition to that as well, I think that Russia may look to Greece with this important Mediterranean strategic location to perhaps house even Russian military hardware inside Greece itself, and therefore perhaps be an important strategic outpost for the Russians. This would be an extremely dangerous move. It would also, I think, undermine Greece's position as a NATO member as well. But without a doubt, the Russians are going to be looking for some kind of trade-off, both in terms of supporting Russian interests within the European Union over issues such as sanctions on Ukraine, but also perhaps Greece playing a role as a strategic outpost for the Russians on the Mediterranean.
You know, and a separate but related issue of the security issue of terrorists in Europe, the Greek defense minister about 2 months ago basically issued a threat saying, well, if the European Union doesn't bail us out, we have tens of thousands, in fact, even over 100,000 refugees who are coming from the Syrian civil war, who were fleeing ISIS in Iraq. They're coming, making their way on boats to the Greek islands. And we, the Greek government, are going to give them papers and we're going to let them go throughout Europe. And we know salted in that group of refugees is probably ISIS fighters, ISIS terrorists. How real is that threat?
Well, I think it's a significant threat, and Europe has been flooded by refugees over the past few months. Some of those refugees have made their way to Greece. Most of the refugees who have gone to Greece have actually tried to go on to other European countries, and that's how bad the situation in Greece, that even refugees coming from North Africa feel that there isn't a long-term future in Greece, and therefore they're looking further west, even as far afield as Great Britain as well. And there is a concern among many European leaders that among the refugees who have fled North Africa are a significant number of Islamists. with ties to ISIS, Al-Qaeda and other Islamist groups. And so the growing anarchy in Greece certainly is a significant security risk, I think, for other European countries. And without a doubt, I think that there is a security risk posed directly by ISIS within this Greek crisis, the threat of refugees moving from Greece into Western European countries, including, of course, Germany, France, and Great Britain.
I think, Nile, it's very good for us to remember that whatever is happening in Greece with the economic crisis, there are definitely national security implications, and indeed for the United States. So, Nile Gardiner, thanks for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Check out foxnews.com for more on Greece. I'm KT McFarland, and thanks for watching.